Team Fortress 2, the game that has always been in Steam's top played, but has always been known as that dying game. So guys, today I want to talk about why people think the game is dead and what is actually happening to the game. Yep, that's right, I'm going to be one of the first people to ever talk about TF2 and the fact that it might be dying. I'm definitely going to be the first one to ever even consider this and make a video on it, and there have been no other people to ever do this, so this is yeah, very creative, I know. So, firstly, let's talk about TF2 in general. The game is now 10 years old and all things considered it's still going really strong. With an average player count of between 45 and 65,000 players per day, the game's not doing bad at all. If we look at the player numbers of TF2 in the past few years, the average player count is actually pretty consistent. To me, this shows the game isn't actually dead. However, of course, you've got to take into account the idlers of TF2, and it's a pretty big number, but it's not going to be so big that the game is secretly hiding its death. TF2 is still well within Steam's top played games and has been for a long time. It's nowhere near Dota 2 or CSGO, but it's still very up there. You take other games below it and some of them can be dropping thousands of players compared to TF2. You should also really consider how many people are on Steam. There's loads of people on Steam, and for how many TF2 has, it's not bad. Of course it's not amazing and it's not really good, but it's not bad, especially when the game is 10 years old. The main problem for TF2 is within the competitive community. I don't mean that in the sense of it is the community that is slowly and surely dropping. Within competitive TF2 there are two major game types, and these are Sixes and Highlander. I'm more of a Highlander nerd, so I'll probably be talking about that more, but I don't want to go into massive detail about any of them right now. That's a video for another day, and realistically I don't think all of you need to hear that. Right, so Highlander. Right now I'm showing you the team signups for the past 5 seasons of Highlander. This data is from TF2, so take that into account. It is only Europe and is only one league. As you can see, the numbers are dropping, and they're dropping hard. Zooming out the past 5 seasons though shows that Highlander has been pretty consistently dropping signups to the point where last season's signups were 65 teams in total. Now something to take into account with these numbers are these are team signups, and there are 9 players per team. 9 players per team is not including subs however, so if you include subs, it's probably an average of 12 players. Now this is no confirmed average, however, I'm going to use this to calculate the rough player count of Highlander last season. Now as you can see, I'm showing you the rough player count of Highlander for the past couple of seasons. It doesn't seem so bad, however it's still obviously decreasing and it's not really the best. If you look at this graph, it is clearly just decreasing, although there are odd times where they have increased. The trend is pretty much down all the time. Something to take note here is we've already seen high and mid have to merge last season, and this was just to make up for the fact there wasn't enough players to have both divs. However, this season that just happened, we had a shorter season and that was to make up for it. However, we did have high and mid in their separate divisions. Now let's talk about Sixes. As you can see, Sixes has a bit more consistency with numbers of teams signing up. However, more recently the numbers have been dropping. Although these numbers are higher than Highlander, they aren't that much better. Sixes obviously has a smaller roster of 6 players, however, there are also subs in that, and I do think there are less subs than in Highlander, typically. In this case, I've decided I'm going to say 2 per team is the average, due to it being more than Highlander but not massively low. So with 8 players per team, I'm now showing you what the player count in Sixes would roughly look like. So as you can see, the average player count for Sixes is currently better than Highlander, however it's not a massive improvement. Also, something to take note of here is that TF2 recently added a new division to Sixes. Now this was called Low, and it took place of the old Open, and now Open is basically a fresh meat division where you can't have experience over Open. Now the point of this isn't to say how great this division is, which yes it is, it's good and allows people to get into Sixes that aren't, experienced. But the point is that Highlander had to merge divisions, and now Sixes is adding a new division. Sixes is clearly in a better place than Highlander, and it's, it's showing, it's obvious, but why? Now I'm not going to go into massive detail on this, but in short, Sixes is more competitive and therefore more fun, and really, Highlander has a lot of issues that are showing now. So if we look at both of the average player numbers together of Sixes and Highlander, let's consider a few things. What percent of these players are both playing Sixes and Highlander? What percent of these players are only playing Highlander? And for that matter, what percent of players are only playing Sixes? It's an interesting thought, but at the end of the day, Sixes is always going to be on top of Highlander. mainly because of it being more competitive and more fun to cast. Realistically, because of that competition, it's more fun to cast and therefore gets more publicity. Now again, remember, this is only ETF2L. If you add UGC, ECSEA, Oz Fortress and Asia Fortress, it would increase these player numbers. But again, with UGC, there's that turnover of people who are playing both leagues, so it's quite interesting, and realistically it's not going to inflate their numbers too much. But you've also got the US as well, and that's quite a big portion of the TF2 competitive community, so do take that into mind. Now, in my opinion, the reason these numbers are so low is because how hard it is to find TF2 competitive. Unless you know what you're looking for, you're not really going to find TF2 competitive. Now, this is due to a few things. TF2 has not had one of those massive tournaments, massively promoted, big prize pool, lots of players, and therefore it's not a massive thing in the competitive community. To us, one of the biggest things that happens is the I-Series LAN events, and they're not really that big. You look at other games and they're probably one of the smallest LANs out there. Now the other thing is with these LANs is they're not massively promoted outside of the game itself. Now the big problem TF2 competitive has is that it's only really promoted within itself. Places like Reddit, Team Fortress TV, the TF2 website even to a point, they're just really going to be promoted to competitive players and people who are really interested in checking these things out. Now it has started to promote itself more within the pub community by TF2 announcements when big events go out, and even the news posts do get to some pubbers, to be fair, but it's not really enough right now. Competitive matchmaking in TF2 has also given people the idea, the site for TF2 competitive. However, it's not really giving them the right impression because it's a not very polished system and it's got a lot of problems in it, and they are trying to fix this. However, it's giving a lot of people the wrong idea of TF2 competitive. Now this is really all working for sixes, and it's really promoting sixes. However, Highlander on the other hand is struggling for any sort of publicity. As I've said, Highlander being a less competitive game mode makes people want to not cast it as much. There's not really that much to talk about, and there's just not really that much to see. It's a spam game. Now because of this, the average Twitch viewer isn't getting to see much of the Highlander scene, and realistically the odd blog posts saying the signups are here aren't really helping either. I also don't really blame Valve for this. If it's a less competitive game mode, why would you show it off as the competitive game mode? Of course you'd go for the more competitive one of sixes, but it's kind of a shame to see Highlander falling. Now with that being said, let's get back into the general numbers of TF2. You've got to remember within these numbers there are casual players, community pub players, MVM players, and even traders. Trading is something that's very interesting to me, not only because I do it, but I really do believe it will live on past the game. Many collectors within TF2 don't even play the game, and that really shows to me that trading will live on past this game because people will still be buying hats past this game. Of course there'll be less trading and less demand and less people wanting to buy stuff and sell stuff, but in the same sense the Steam market is around, and that really shows me that trading is still going to be alive past TF2's death. The last thing I want to talk about here with these numbers is the fact that TF2 updates. Now, if I was to get the date of every single TF2 update every month, you would see that the player numbers generally increase. Some only a little bit, and some really big. Now, TF2 updates in general are slow, and that's really because there are less people working on the game. Not having those updates very often also means people get burnt out of the game because it's the same game over and over again. Now the game in general is also quite hard to update, and that's because there's so many different people playing the game, and there's so many different game modes that you have to balance weapons around. Now of course you can add new weapons, try them out, you can change weapons later and all that, but people aren't always going to be happy. You have to make the Highlander players happy, Sixes players happy, pub players happy, MVM players happy, and that's a hard job. We all want certain weapons to change in some way, and we all want some weapons to stay how they are. However, it is kind of nice to see that more recently Valve has posted about what they plan to change, to get feedback, to see what we think. Now this again is just as hard though, because Sixes players will have different opinion to Highlander players, to pub players, to MVM players. They'll all have different opinions, and it's hard to get a good balance for all of them. Now to summarize this video, I just want to say I don't think TF2 is dying. For someone who wants to play this game at a casual level, I think this game is still so alive. I think you should be able to play pubs safely for a good few years yet, and that's not something you should be worried about at all. Competitive players, however, might struggle. Highlander is at a very close point to not being able to make a season anymore. If ETF2 had to do this, they probably would just turn it into a cup that happens every now and then. and that's not a bad thing, but it's kind of disappointing to see happen. Sixes is an odd place right now where Valve is trying to show support, they're trying to help, and there's a potential for it to grow, but we don't know what the future holds, and as of right now the player counts are still dropping. So realistically, I don't know, and you don't know. The future could hold anything, and anything might happen just right now. Tomorrow, Highlander might just suddenly burst with hundreds of new teams. We don't know. The likely situation is Sixes staying around where it is now, potentially growing if Valve do support it more, but Highlander will end up sinking. And as I said, as a Highlander nerd, I do find that kind of upsetting, but at the same time I could see why it might happen. However, that's pretty much all I want to say on this matter, and I don't want to get really deep into Highlander and Sixes stuff, so yeah, thanks for watching guys, and I'm sure I will post something like this again, maybe a Sixes versus Highlander thing, comparing the two, but I don't think I really want to go into massive detail and upset people by saying, oh, I prefer Highlander because I can play Pyro and Engineer. So yeah, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time. Bit of self-promotion here guys, but I plan to be streaming soon and really going for streams a bit more than YouTube, and that does mean I probably upload a bit less of real videos like this, or you know, other videos that aren't T-Lights, but basically it means there will be a lot of T-Lights that are just stream highlights, and I hope you guys enjoy that. You seem to like T-Lights, so yeah. My Twitch link is always in the description of my videos, but if you haven't seen it somehow, go check that. I'll probably have it on screen now, and you can go give that a follow if you'd like to see my streams. However, if you don't want to see my streams, fair enough, I don't blame you. I'm a bit boring, to be honest. I'm surprised you watched this video to the end. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope to see you at a stream, but if I don't, I hope you enjoy my next video, or if you don't watch that, then I hope you enjoy your day tomorrow. I don't really mind, as long as you have a nice day. So yeah, see you whenever. Later guys. I hope you have a nice